I would be taking really drastic actions. It would be really unpleasant. That's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, it's blackmail, essentially, and that's exactly what Hank Paulson did to Congress back in 2008. I mean, it's clearly alarming, but Webster Tarpley, a guy we respect a lot, is warning us all that in the event that the Congress doesn't raise the debt ceiling, then we better make sure that we have a really sound backup plan and a backup currency ready to go, and we don't, unless you're right. But if we don't, Webster Tarpley is warning that it's worldwide financial Armageddon.
It is, but that's, if you think about it, that was always the plan. In the Road to Ruta theory, based off the theory from the 1960s called the Road to the Golden Age, when you go off an unbacked currency back to a gold standard, the best way to do it is to run that currency as long as possible, sucking out all the benefits of an unbacked currency, build houses, build infrastructure, spend all the money you can until it's no longer accepted, then crash the system, wipe out all debt, which would wipe out all assets as well, because once these big banks crash, there is no financial institution that will survive that.
Okay, real quick, let's talk about something that's a watershed event. I just mentioned the fact that Webster Tarpley said you better have a backup system if you're going to let this dollar collapse, and you're not going to raise the debt ceiling because it's going to mean financial Armageddon planet-wide. There are some states that now do have a backup system. Utah just passed a law that says gold and silver is real money, and it can be used in Utah without capital gains. This is a watershed event, and the state in which I live, Minnesota, is now taking a look at similar legislation. Bix, what do you make of this? This is a big deal, isn't it?
It is. It's all part of the plan to go back to a sound U.S. dollar used on a domestic basis, because right now we have credit throughout the world with our fiat currency. If we default on the dollar, the rest of the world will not accept dollars anymore. And when they do not accept dollars, what are we going to give them? Gold and silver? No, we are going to close our borders to trade for a while, take care of ourselves, bring our troops home, all that I've talked about before. But that's always been the plan. The plan was always to run this fiat money thing out for as long as you can. And when it ends, it always ends poorly for everyone.
Yeah, there are sad times ahead of us. And folks, anybody who is new to this channel or to Bix's work, this isn't fringe conspiracy theory. This has nothing to do with conspiracy theory. What we are now talking about is absolute fact, in that the debt ceiling has been breached. The government is now tapping into future pension obligations that it has. It's no longer paying into pension funds. It's using that to fund the government debt. We are hitting the end game as we speak. And if you're unprepared with any physical silver or gold, then we can't help you. We can't help you help yourself. You need to get some physical silver, physical gold to help try to weather this storm, because what's coming, it's a financial Armageddon to some extent, and I just don't think there's any way to prevent it, Bix. Now, before we let you go, you wanted to mention who you thought were the real winners in this latest Silver Slam.
Well, the winners, if you look at what has happened, the facts of what went down in the last month, you got somebody took 42 million ounces out of SLV. That's a lot of silver. That is more silver than they could have gotten anywhere else in the world. All that silver had a home. It had a place to go.
Yeah, just to put that in perspective for folks, guys, that's more silver than Eric Sprott was able to source from around the globe to start his PSLV, Physical Back Silver Fund. 42 million ounces of silver that disappeared, Bix, in a week? That's more than, and it took Eric Sprott 3.5 months to get his 22 million ounces of silver.
That's true, and if you listen to Eric, and who's brilliant, by the way, I love what he's doing. But he said that he had about 10 million ounces of that silver already. He only tried to source 15 million ounces of silver. It took him 3 months, and some of that silver
was
minted after he stood for delivery.
You're right. I heard that too. I heard him say that. It's amazing. So
it's 15 million ounces in over 3 months, and what we're talking about here is 42 to 100 million ounces that go in a blink of an eye, a matter of a couple of weeks. So the big thing that's happening is there's physical silver being drained from SLV. There's short covering on the SLV, which is shares that were shorted, and then the silver was never put in, so they have to cover those shorts. That's down from 37 million shares in late April to 28 million. So they're covering there. They're covering, the big unknown is the over-the-counter market in London, which is the 100 times leverage type of thing. Who knows what's going on in that? It's never reported. And then the COMEX will know in early June how many short positions J.P. Morgan covered over the month of May. I think this is a J.P. Morgan operation, but not just J.P. Morgan. J.P. Morgan runs the silver rigging operations. They inherited it from Bear Stearns, who before them inherited it from AIG. It just happens to be in Jamie Dimon's court right now. They are colluding with the CME, with Treasury, with the big brokerage houses to control the price of silver, because silver is the silver bullet that can take down the entire unbacked fiat money game.
Yeah, and the bottom line, though, is that at least physical in your possession has, no counterparty risk. You own it. Nobody else can take it from you. In theory, it's the ultimate hedge against this collapse, is actually having some physical in your possession.
Yeah, and it's hard because I hear really smart investment gold and silver guys talk about how the U.S. is doomed, our debt is unsustainable, and all these things, and then they recommend buying foreign mining stocks and things like that, and I'm like, did they run the scenario? If you believe that fiat currency is doomed and the U.S. cannot get out of the problem they've created, or any state or local government, if you believe that to be true, you need to run the scenario all the way through of what are the consequences. What are the consequences of not raising the debt ceiling? What are the consequences of the state of California going bankrupt? What are the consequences of all these bank derivatives imploding on the housing side? All that's going to happen. You just got to run the consequences of what will happen to the rest of the world when that happens.
All right, Bix. Well, it's always a joy talking with you. We know we can find you over at roadtoruta.com. Why don't you leave us with some parting words of advice?
My advice is, and I was telling this to a friend the other day who was saying, silver was in a bubble, which always makes me laugh. But I said, I'm a buyer at $35 silver. I'm a buyer at $40 silver. I'm a buyer at $50 silver. I am a buyer at $100 silver, just like I was a buyer at $5 silver, $10 silver, $20 silver. Until the problems are fixed, I'm going to continually buy silver at whatever price I can get it for. If I can get that metal and I've got some money in my pocket, I'm going to buy it.
Words of wisdom, guys. Hey, I just want to announce that I've got an interview coming up with James Turk in the next few days, so stay tuned, guys, for that. Jim Turk certainly will provide additional words of wisdom for us in these dark hours here in the Republic. Bix Weir, as always, huge pleasure talking with you. Let's talk again soon.
Sean, it's been great talking to you, and keep an eye on silver volatility as the squeeze comes to these bankster types. It should get very exciting in the months and weeks ahead. Not years, but weeks and months.
All right, guys, check out Bix work at roadtoruta.com, and you can see my daily updates at sgtreport.com. As always, Bix Weir, thanks so much for joining us. And, guys, we'll talk to you again real soon.
All right, John.
Take care, Bix. Bye.
Bye.
Well, that's it, guys. Thanks again for tuning in, and be sure to check out sgtreport.com, where we cover a lot of ground on a daily basis. Until next time, thanks for watching.